Dybala! He is something else. Di Lorenzo, and still Di Lorenzo! The captain brings the house down. Partenopea champions once again, but the 33-year wait will now officially come to an end.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie A Sit Down, World Football Index's podcast for your Calcio to go. I'm Frank Crivello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. How are we doing on this Tuesday evening?
We're back on our Tuesdays. Well, we were on Tuesday last week, so
we were. It's hard to keep track of all these days.
Isn't it though? It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're doing all right. We're gonna get a little warm up this week. Some of the golf courses are going to be open around here for a couple of days. That's how nice it's going to be. I don't know how it is out there in DC.
It's been cold. Today has been okay, but it's been on the cooler side. I don't expect it to be that warm for the golf course to be open, but it probably can't be as warm as the chat is tonight. They're lively already. Look at that. I love it.
They were waiting for me. I apologize, guys. Just kind of
makeup.
Well, yeah, and just some last minute film study. Also, I got to admit, when you have to cart kids around to sports, and then you have your job, and then you have this, and then you have that, and all this other stuff. We're just trying to make sure I've got blocks of time to take a look at what went on in the games and things like that, so that I'm, because I went yesterday, and I can't remember where I saw it. I think we must have had a really disgruntled Juventus fan 2.5 years ago, and I can't remember the site, but there's a guy. It's like Ale Del Piero 74 in the comments gave us 1 star and said that we don't watch the games and that we just talk and that we're talking, that we bring up NFL and NBA and we're bringing up American sports and said nobody wants to hear that. Like, he was all pissed off. We must have been dogging Juve.
Sounds about right.
And he was probably bitter because let me tell you something, guys. We watch the games, and there's not much that gets past us. So I'm sorry, and I'm not really triggered by it. It's a comment from 2.5 years ago, but I am going to say this. We welcome the negative feedback. We want to get better, but we can tell you this: we do watch the games. Okay, there's not a whole lot that gets past us. All right.
Including comments from 2.5 years ago as well. I love it.
Exactly. I had to go back and take a look at it and see what people were saying about us because you never know sometimes. So
yeah.
But to whoever Ale Del Piero, keyboard warrior _74, whoever you are out there, we're sorry we disappointed you that one day we said something bad about your team. So, because that's probably what it was. We were really, really ripping on Juventus at that time. I remember that.
To be fair, it's fun.
So. It is fun. So good to have everybody in the chat, man. Yeah. Amazing. Vincent, Anthony, Dominic, Reno, I saw, Apex. Yep. And you guys are all here. Great to have you with us. So
absolutely.
Calcio from Reno. Reno's laughing at this whole talk about it was probably Reno that made the comment.
It probably was Reno. It probably was Reno. Like I said about Juve, we saw last week. We know how it is.
So, but anyway, I can't even remember the site. It was one of those like indexes of, where you've got to like have a login to know how many listeners and all that other stuff. And I just was looking at the reviews. So anyway, there was a battering at the Diego Armando Maradona. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We'll get into the rest of match week 14. We'll talk a little bit about a certain Mr. Maldini breaking his silence. After being exiled out of Milan. Is that how it is? Did I use that word correctly?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. If not, I'm using it for that purpose. And then we will also break down the Euro 2024 draw, in particular Italy. Tough group. But doable, and we will get into that as well. We'll finish with the world's most popular hashtag game. Who won? Calcio Twitter. You're doing a hashtag thing with your fingers now? Are you going to start?
No, I'm not going to start. It's just a one-time thing, a one-off, never again.
We got the Larry Zabisco salute. We got that going, and now we're hashtagging. All right, now we're hashtagging with our fingers. You got to keep me out. You got to warn me about these things. You can't just be doing them spontaneously. I'm an old man. I can't be Can't be getting
Must
surprised.
be Tourette's or something. I don't know. I can't help myself.
It's a better chance it's that. So,
yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's get into it, Richard. We had Napoli taking on Inter. And it was another big test. I mean, Walter Mazzarri pretty much coming in at a bad time. Had to go to Atalanta, had to go to Real Madrid. Now he's got Inter. And isn't it Juve next?
Yes.
Or did they,
yes. This weekend, you got Juve.
Yeah, and it's Juve this weekend. So nothing like a little trial by fire. So if we get into it and we take a look at Napoli coming out in the 4-3-3 with Merritt in goal, Di Lorenzo, Rahmani, Ostergaard, and Nathan now kind of deputizing as a left back. Anguissa, Lobotka, Elmas midfield, Politano, Kvaratskhelia, and Osimhen back and playing in the center forward position. Simone went to his traditional 3-5-2, Jan Sommer in goal, Darmian, De Vrij, and Acerbi across the back, Dumfries and DiMarco in the wing-back positions, the midfield of Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, Barella, and then Lautaro and Thuram up front. You had your finger like you were trying to pause me here.
Let me stop you right there because I want to both. I want to backtrack a little bit because, heading into this game last week, with Reno on the pod, we talked about how, and as well as Julian, we talked about like Napoli, what are they going to do heading into the week? Because they had Real Madrid in the midweek, and then they had obviously the Inter game, right? And we said, we thought you should rest the players and focus on the Inter matchup, right? And I want to read the lineups of the Champions League game for the two teams, right? So Inter, their lineup for Benfica, their lineup was Audero in goal, a back three of Acerbi, De Vrij, and Bissek, midfield five of Aslani, Carlos Augusto, Klaassen, Fratesi, Darmian, and a front two of Arnautovic and Sanchez, okay?
Yeah.
Rotation, clearly rotating. They're clearly waiting for the Napoli matchup. Napoli against Real Madrid, would they get their heads in the game and try to see if they're going to win? Their lineup is Meret, Di Lorenzo, Rahmani, Natan, Juan Jesus. Midfield three of Anguissa, Lobotka, Zielinski, and a front three of Politano, Kvaratskhelia, and Simeone. So clearly, one team was going to let the substitutes play and then save it for the weekend. The other team, who probably should have done that, went for the home run against Real Madrid, and then they gotta play have the guys who are tired coming to this matchup now with almost the exact same lineup. I noticed that immediately, and when you look at these two lineups, for me, Inter absolutely the freshest team. I feared for Napoli when I saw the lineups because, well, even the midweek, because Napoli didn't really rest anybody. The only person they really rested was Osimhen, right? And so I said, how long can they go in 90 minutes? If they do, it'll be damn impressive, because Inter are a cutthroat of a team, a killer. And if you can last 90 minutes against them, I give you all the kudos in the world. So that was the thing that stood out to me more than anything, heading into this matchup. What were your thoughts on the starting lineups?
Well, we talked. I mean, yeah, you said it. We talked about it last week with Reno. We said, Napoli should punt the Real Madrid game. I mean, because they could lose that game. I mean, a loss and a draw was going to secure second place for them.
Yeah.
That this trip to the Bernabeu was really not that important. Much like how, Spalletti just decided to cut his losses and say, okay, I'm not going to start my strongest team against England. I'm going to start my strongest team against Malta. Make sure I get my 3 points there. Take the L to England, and then focus on the next round of matches to get us automatically in. And it worked. Okay, and I see the same environment here for Napoli, and we talked about it. But Mazzarri seems like he wants to run the same collection of guys into the ground right now, and so far it is backfired on him on both sides. We knew they were going to lose at Real Madrid. We expected them to.
Yep.
And then you now go to you go to this home match against Inter, where you've had everybody trying to chase a game that you really didn't need to chase. I would have said, you know what, take our lumps, take our second position in the group, and deal with who we have to play in the next round of Champions League. Yep. Right now, trying to keep our position in Serie A has got to be the priority. Knowing that they were going to have another 90 minutes at home against Braga. So right off the bat, it is really, I think you got to say, it's pretty disappointing management so far by Walter Mazzarri, which is what we kind of expected when this hire got made.
Yeah.
And I'll take it even a little bit further, and we'll talk about another game that happened today, but match week 14. Okay, that 2-1 win at Atalanta suddenly doesn't look so good after what happened here on Monday with Torino winning 3-0.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they did put up a really good fight against Real Madrid. Here's our point. They didn't really need to.
No.
I would have punted the game. I mean, sometimes you can do that, I mean, it would have looked really bad if they didn't play their strongest lineup for that game. Well, you've got to somehow at some point manage your team through certain situations and certain fixture lists, especially one as daunting as this. Okay, I'm looking at this. I'm walking into this, and maybe ADL didn't like it, and maybe that conversation was had behind closed doors and said, no, play our strongest team at the Bernabeu. We need to show we're among the best in Europe. That conversation could have happened where it said, look, we're going to benefit by resting these guys and having them prepared to play Inter. It's all a matter of what you think is more valuable.
But I pose this counter in that: would you rather lose 4-5-0 to Real Madrid in Champions League or lose 3-0 to Inter in the league? I would rather lose to Real Madrid.
I would have taken Big L at Real Madrid and had my guys ready to play Inter.
Yeah. That's us, De Laurentiis could have been like, no, I want to, like you said, I want to show that we're as good as Real Madrid or can fight with Real Madrid, and they did battle them very well. So, but it hit them in the league. It's hard to do back-to-back games against two really good teams and expect to get maximum points.
Agreed. Okay, so the game. I think the first half of the game went about as expected. You expected Napoli to have more of the ball. You expected Inter to sit back. Here's a few things that I caught, Richard.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, I think incredible credit. If Nicola Barella wasn't out there on the pitch, you could make an argument that back three for Inter, the collection of guys that had to play there, could be in line for man of the match. Their job, and it was very, very clear from the start, their job was crowd Osimhen. And don't you dare get disconnected from each other. Because what did Napoli – when you watch Napoli when they attacked, okay, so those three guys are sitting and they're compact in the middle. Okay, so what's happening now? You've got your wingers getting the ball wide, and now you've got inverted runs. Okay, Elmas did that a lot, in his link up with, I believe it was Nathan on the left. Mm-hmm. I mean, excuse me, Kvaratskhelia. Okay, and Anguissa with Politano. You saw a lot of that little bit of combination play that those midfield runs were being made to each side of the back three. If you're just trying to pull them apart enough to give Osimhen some room, and the back three for Inter didn't take the bait. No, they said, you can do that combination shit all you want. Okay, Julia left the room. I can say it now.
Okay, I was wondering.
It's not like she hasn't heard it before.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
You can try that combination stuff. We're going to stay put. We're not leaving Osimhen. Okay, you can do that. You're not scoring from those angles with the goalkeeper that you got. So your choices are: hopefully somebody loses their concentration, or beat them from distance. And you saw the Elmas chance that Sommer made an amazing save on. Politano had the chance to hit the crossbar. That's what Napoli were resorted to, and Inter are comfortable enough. I think and what you see now is an evolving trust with a new goalkeeper. We trust you. We know if teams are going to take their chances from distance, we know you're going to be there for us.
Yeah.
That they can tactically set themselves up. Those are the two things that I saw those are the two things that I saw in Inter's setup, where it was like, okay, back three is just going to hang out with Osimhen in the box, and everything, Napoli, combine all you want on the flanks. You can't score goals that way.
Yeah.
So, and then it forces, it forces shots from distance. Osimhen had one chance in this game. It was off a cross from not Augusto. I'm sorry. I can't remember who played the cross from the left hand side, but it was a half chance at best. I mean, it was an early cross. Osimhen got his head to it, but he put it wide. So, I mean, it wasn't even anything that troubled Sommer in the end. So, more of the chances from Napoli, a lot of them from distance. Osimhen really not getting involved. It really, really went the way Inter wanted it to go. Going the other way, Inter definitely looked the more threatening team to score, even though Napoli had a few more chances.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shot. I think, Napoli, as expected too, came out very well. A team, yes, they may have played in the midweek, but they're going to have they're fresh at least to start the game. Could they go the whole 90? That's the question. But the first 45, especially the first 45, they looked really good. They rotated a lot. They created a lot of chances. It wasn't as dangerous as Inter, to your point, but I thought they did well. They had the press going really well. They came at you in waves, but again, it's that for Inter, bend but don't break. That back three, as you mentioned, didn't let Osimhen out of their sight. They doubled up on Kvaratskhelia when they had to, and really try to force Politano and Elmas to kind of do the dirty work, which they did early on. They looked pretty good, and it seemed like, it's funny when we obviously Inter and Juventus are the cream of the crop in this league. But we, seeing how other teams come up against them really tells you more about them than anything else. We saw with Milan how, they look good for spells of the game against Inter and the derby, and same thing with Juventus, but eventually class proved itself, and that's why those two teams eventually win the game. And in this one, we started out seeing, okay, Napoli can certainly hang with Inter, but the difference between being good and being top was shown in this game is that the clinical, the cutthroat mentality of Inter's finishers, and they get their opportunities and they take advantage of their clinical. And while Napoli didn't have the greatest of chances, they could have done a lot better in their first half in terms of trying to get more goals, better opportunities on Sommer. Sommer needs to be, if you're going to beat Sommer, it's got to have to be something spectacular. And, the way Napoli were playing, it needed a spectacular goal to kind of unlock the game because, Inter had looked more dangerous, but majority of possession was with Napoli. I thought they were creating a lot of good triangle passing, and the midfield runs from both Elmas and Napolitano on the right hand side were working. And I thought, okay, if they could keep this up, if they can find a way to catch, Inter sleeping at the wheel in the defense, they got an opportunity. It's gonna be, you got to do something special to beat Sommer, but it didn't happen. What we end up seeing is something special on the other end.
Yeah. So Inter's chances, and I mean, when you take a look at now, we got Nathan on the left hand side, operating, kind of as a deputized left back, and Denzel Dumfries cooked him, pretty much all game. I mean, that was a disaster waiting to happen. You obviously had the play from Barella, the chances that they were creating, the marking on Martinez in the first half was okay. By the combination of Rahmani and Ostergaard, the marking on Thuram, it was okay. It was not great. They were still in dangerous positions. And it was man marking. That's the frustration with playing two strikers, especially two strikers that are in form. When you're playing with a 4-man defense, it's two center backs, and you're pretty much trusting them to man mark each striker, which leaves room for a lot of other things to happen. We always talk about it when Milan play Inter, but Pioli just continues to play two center backs, man marks Lautaro and man marks the last year I can't remember who it was it Correa in the semifinal or Jacko? Anyway, and then what does that open up? Well, if your midfielders aren't tracking runs, then that's where the goals are going to come, and that's where the goals came. And the one before halftime,
wow,
was the goal of the week from Çalhanoğlu. Now,
unreal.
I will say there were some damn good goals this weekend.
This was a fantastic weekend for goals, my goodness, and plays. Just plays in general, but that goal by Çalhanoğlu, it reminded me a lot of Roberto Carlos. Just the power and pace of it all was unreal. I mean, Meret read it well, and you had no chance. I don't think anybody would have had a chance of that, honestly.
Yeah. It was a lot of ball watching from the Napoli defense.
Sure, yeah.
But, not stepping out. The ball was worked backwards. The cross came. It was coming back to Barella. That's when you got to try to start stepping and trapping and trying to get in front of people and stepping into block shots. But it didn't happen. And we were blessed with a really nice goal from distance from Hakan Çalhanoğlu to make it 1-0 before halftime. As the game evolved, in hindsight being 2020, that was one heavyweight punching the other heavyweight in the mouth, and the one that got punched just was never really the same the rest of the way.
It reminded me of, and I'm showing my age now. It was a Lennox Lewis fight against, and I don't remember who it was, but all match long, just jab, 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 and eventually win with a knockout blow, and to win the match. And that's kind of what Inter did, is jab, jab, but hard jabs that Napoli kept them at bay really, and then boom, knockout blow with the Çalhanoğlu. Then the other goals. It just is to your point. It's just hey, they kept going at them, and they were clinical when they had to be. Took their chances.
So we have a failure on Napoli's part to step out when the ball, because the ball went backwards twice. It started with Thuram back to Barella, and then it went back to Çalhanoğlu. So it's not clear to me why Napoli's just holding their positions there, but Çalhanoğlu punished him for it. So, and then we have the second goal, which comes from good pressing, good ball winning. And really what happens when you're now trying to chase the game and get back in it and get a goal? Well, what happens? You're stretched now. And the man marking is kind of evident because Lautaro was wide, and I can't remember the center back that it was, but he goes out there with him. And I saw it right when it happened. I saw Barella's run right when it happens. If he gets this to Barella, it's a goal.
Yeah.
And because Lobotka wasn't tracking, Anguissa wasn't tracking, and I believe was Zielinski in the game at that point.
Anguissa was basically walking on that play. He's like, he wasn't even involved. I was like, I don't care. I was like, nothing's gonna happen. Boom, goal. I was like, shit.
Yeah. No, Zielinski came on after that. Okay, so none of the substitutions got made until the 68th minute by Napoli. So Elmas, Lobotka, Anguissa, nobody tracks Barella. Barella makes a brilliant move, scores, puts Inter up 2-0. They're cruising.
But there was a play that led prior to this that kind of
yes.
could have changed the game. Maybe, maybe not. But just before this goal, and this always happens. This is the football gods, how they work, right? One end, something a near play nearly happens, and goes the other end and scores a goal. So the play I'm talking about obviously is Osimhen was in the box. He goes down. He's writhing in pain. They go and check it. And the question is, was there a penalty or not? They said no penalty on De Vrij with Osimhen falling down. And lots of people were saying, that's controversial. Should have been a penalty. Should have not have been a penalty. You don't believe it was a penalty, correct? You thought it was a correct call on the play.
At speed, it appeared to be a coming together.
Yep.
And I think that's why they didn't call it. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that the commentator made a good point too. Like VAR and replay can deceive you because you can see much more clearly than in live play. Live play, we see things, as we see them normally. And in VAR, you can scrutinize every little thing or whatever. But for me, why I thought this should have been a penalty for Napoli is because you see when De Vrij makes contact with Osimhen's leg,
a Serbi.
Oh, excuse me, a Cherby. There's a clear jerking of his leg and his heel as Achilles, I guess it was, and he goes down, and he goes down. So to me, that's a penalty because there's another game where they had another controversial penalty, and that's the Sassuolo Roma game. Similar in the light touches that it happened, though I thought the Roma game was much more of a penalty, much more definitive of a penalty than this one. I still think I've seen this called many times where an attacker gets touched like Osimhen did, goes down, and it was a penalty is called. So this one, the fact that no penalty was called, and I know there's a naysayers out there who are saying, "Oh, see, Inter don't get any penalties against them all the time." So, because someone put some statistic out about how many penalties of each of the top teams have given up, and Inter was like half of everybody else. I don't know if that's anything to do with that, but I think it was missed, in my opinion, and it could go either way. It was tight because obviously you and many other people and the referees, they saw this as no penalties. So it's just a tight one for me in a game of this magnitude. It's always going to have this, that should have been a penalty or that shouldn't have been a penalty. It's always going to happen. It just, and of course it popped up in this game. And then when nothing called, goes the other end, and Barella scores a wonderful goal. So it's like, that's typical football gods for you.
Well, the Roma penalty was far more controversial than this.
You think so?
For me? Yeah, far more
Okay.
controversial. I mean, I think that I mean, there was hardly anything in it.
It's funny.
Hardly anything in it, and was it Christensen who just kind of
Christensen.
it's almost like he slipped on a banana skin, and fell almost next to no contact from any of the Sassuolo defenders, and it still got called. Here, there was some contact.
It's funny how we see these two fouls in different ways. And, this is how it is everywhere, right? I felt that the Christensen penalty was a much more definitive penalty than the Osimhen one, even though I thought both should have been penalties. But it's interesting, hear your side.
I think I rewound and replayed the Osimhen penalty play about a dozen times.
Yeah.
And I kept coming to the same conclusion that I don't think Osimhen completely had the ball, and I think that Acerbi was making an effort for it, and they just came together. And I think that that's what the referee saw, and that's the way the referee interpreted it. I can't tell you whether it's right or wrong. In my opinion, from what I saw at speed, I saw two players coming together trying to win the ball, and nothing where it was malicious on the part of Acerbi. So I'd love to get Lisi's take on it.
I was just gonna say CBS has Christina Uncle to review these plays. Where's our resident referee Michael Lisi to kind of break this down for both these plays here?
Sure,
love to hear his take.
Sure, yeah. So Michael, you're listening. I know you listen. So render your opinion to us here at City House Sit Down when you get a chance to listen to this. He's not in the chat today, so I'm assuming he's going to just catch this on the replay. So
maybe he's refereeing a game.
He could be, and maybe there's a coming together very similar to this where he will blow the whistle.
There you go.
So, anyway, and then Inter ultimately finished Napoli off. I mean, just schoolboy defending from Napoli all the way around. Probably a cross that Merritt should have gotten to. Defenders just letting Thuram get behind him easily. It's just and that it kills the game off. 3-0 to Inter. Inter really solidifies their position, top of the table, best team in Italy. Continue to go on a really, really good run of lost one game all season, of only, best defense in the league on top of it. And in this game, defensively, as what I laid out, I think was just as impressive as everything they did going forward and the goals that they scored.
Yep.
Complete team win.
100%. This is a fantastic team, as Vincent says. Inter our top 3 team in Europe. I mean, this team is good. The combination play between Thuram and Martinez and Barella, and really everybody there, but in particular the two strikers working with everybody else, linking up. They had a couple, obviously the Thuram play where he scored a goal, it was offsides. It was a good call. But the link-up play between him and Lautaro was fantastic. Team just played so well, and Barella had a really fantastic game. Çalhanoğlu, obviously, with the goal, did well in his regista position. I like the wrinkle that Limone ball, Simone Inzaghi put in there, where normally it's DiMarco and Augusto, they swap, right? Because they're similar players. But in this game, I think Mkhitaryan came out and Augusto came in, so you had Augusto in DiMarco. DiMarco pushed up in this one. So nice little wrinkles to see from Inzaghi that shows that, hey, they're versatile. They're trying to not only be consistent, but then improve upon and make it even more difficult for everyone else in the league. And, Napoli, they lost 3-0. This is a big loss for them. I still think they're a good team. What this shows me is that, yes, they're a good team, but they're not at Inter's level. They're not at Juventus's level. We'll see. We'll get a good test of how they are against Juventus coming up this weekend. But against Inter, Inter, you got to be special to beat them. Obviously, Sassuolo, when they beat Inter, they were guns blazing. That's a bogey team for Inter as well. And so, a little bit of that. But, man, Inter are a phenomenal team. I hate saying it, but it's true. From the back, from Sommer all the way up to the strikers, this team is good, and they got depth. And so if they continue to, rotate well, both in the league and Coppa Italia and Champions League, they're going to be a menace to everyone they face, unless they get in some kind of bad patch. They're going to continue to be pulling away from the rest of the league, and Juve are going to have to do their damnedest to keep up, and also Napoli and Milan and Roma and all the other clubs, because Inter don't seem like they're slowing down at any point here. But
no, I'm with you. It looks great. Thuram is so special. Let me ask you this about Thuram.
Okay.
and this is an interesting conversation to have, and this is worth asking. Is his success because he has a partner in Lautaro Martinez? Say if he was a solo striker in a 4-3-3, playing what Osimhen has to play, Giroud, Lukaku. Does he come into Serie A and have the same success?
I say yes, because
really, okay,
he has played in a 4-3-3 before. He's played in similar stances. He just needs players around him who can feed him the ball. Inter are obviously a special team that can many different players can get him the ball, including his strike partner in Lautaro. But I think playing in a 4-3-3, if he was at Napoli, for example, right? I think Politano and Horashiro, they're going to find him. He's going to find his way. Is he as special as Osimhen? No, but he is a good player. He's got he's got obviously a great IQ, great pace. He's strong for this. He looks kind of frail and skinny, but he's pretty strong as well. Has a good shot, good passing ability, and so he can find the open spaces. And I think playing in a 4-3-3 or other variations of formations, I think he would do well. Long as the service is there, I think he'd be fine. Honestly,
okay.
And same thing with Osimhen. I think Osimhen playing in a 2-striker system, I think he would succeed as well. Obviously, I think Osimhen is the world of him. But Thuram is legit. He did this in the Bundesliga for a long time. He's done his other places. He is a versatile striker who can play many things. He has a nose for goal, and he knows how to get to open spaces.
Okay.
What about you? Do you think so?
It was just it was just something that I just kind of thought of off the cuff. Mainly because we see guys come from other leagues and they come into a league that's more tactical, like Serie A, even though a lot of goals do get given up, especially by the lower teams.
Yeah.
I wonder if he has his challenges, playing as a solo striker, in this league. But we don't have to find out. He comes into a situation where teams might put a lot of attention on Lautaro Martinez, and that's only freeing Thuram up. But
let me ask you this about another question. Reno brings up a good point. So let's play devil's advocate. Let's say Osimhen was given a penalty and scored. It made it 1-1. Do you think that changes the game at all, or do you think Inter still win this game?
Oh, I think a 1-1 scoreline changes things big time.
You think so?
I don't think that Napoli play as open and as aggressive as they had to when they fell behind 2-0 and left themselves susceptible. I think they changed themselves tactically a little bit, that they wouldn't complain about protecting a point against the top team whilst finding a way to win the game. And I think that you see where, Inzaghi doesn't adjust, where he's just trying to close things out. So, it changes things tactically. 1-1 completely changes things tactically. Now, do I say Napoli go on and win the game if they get the penalty there? Can't really answer that, but I'll lean towards no. I would say it would end up being a draw and going from there. So, but yeah, I think that not getting that penalty call was huge, and not getting that chance to make that penalty and get it to 1-1 was huge. Was huge for that reason. So
yeah, I think I do think the game would change in that respect. We saw last week when the Derby d'Italia, when both Inter and Juve tied a 1-1. Both managers are content with going with 1 point. Now in this case, I don't think Inter or Inzaghi would be content with the 1-1. I agree. Napoli would play a lot more tighter and make it more difficult. I don't think we'd see 3 goals from Inter, but I still think with Inter's class, they'd find a way to get some goal, much like the Calhanoglu goal, where it just came out of nowhere. And because they're so consistent, and they are clinical this year. And whether it would have been Lautaro, whomever, or Thuram, I think they still would have found a way. But it would have been a much closer game. Optically, like this game was fairly close, but obviously the 3-0 scoreline made it look like a huge mismatch. I think if that goal or the penalty had been called, it would have been much different game, or maybe a 2-1 at best. For Inter, maybe 1-1, like you said. So who knows?
So Napoli under Mazzarri have conceded 8 goals in their first 3 games in all comps. Now, granted, they've played a murderer's row here: Atalanta, Real Madrid, and Napoli. 16 shots from Atalanta, 20 shots from Real Madrid, 11 shots from Inter. Inter was certainly very efficient. Didn't have to shoot it as much. there's a lot of conversations in the chat about merit.
Mhm.
They're clearly missing a player like Kim back there.
Yeah.
They're still trying to figure it all out. Are these that and a coach trying to figure it out? Are these the perils? Are these the perils here? Are these what keep Napoli out of top four?
Someone earlier in the chat had asked, was Merritt really that good last year, or was it Spalletti and Kim that kind of masked all this? It's interesting because we've seen many teams over the years, in many different leagues, where they had a okay goalkeeper, but defense was great, that the rest of the team was great, and they kind of masked for it. Meret, I think last year, is he a top goalkeeper necessarily? No, but I think last year he did play well. Yeah, you had Kim there. You had Spalletti's system. You had some really fantastic, one of the best midfields in front of him as well to help with that defense. But I think Merritt stood, he stepped up last year, and maybe the confidence of having that team playing so well in front of him boosted his levels, and then he played above grade. But I thought he was a solid goalkeeper playing above his punching weight. And then this year, kind of without the defensive stability that they had last year, it's kind of showing that, hey, yeah, maybe he's just a solid goalkeeper. He's not one of the top three goalkeepers, at least this season, not. And there's always going to be a regression. Look, Mike Magnon this year, he's having a regression, right? But I like Moret. I thought he did well last year, but I'm sure having the defense in front of him like they played last year with that midfield as well, the whole team helped tremendously, minimize the chances where he could see a lot more of the shots, and basically you're just allowing the long distance shots to come in, and you should be able to save those. This year it's a little bit different. I mean, the 3 goals, the defense just stood around and tried to get Moret to do by himself. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to play a lot better. Moret, the defense, everybody, if you want to have a chance to do well this year.
I mean, the lack of midfield tracking from Napoli especially was disturbing. So
second half and first half was night and day almost.
Raphael reads fiction. Napoli looks much better now with Mazzarri than it did with Garcia earlier in the season. I won't dispute that. I have concerns with the goals they're conceding, though. And I think that's something that really needs to be fixed. So
you think time will fix it with Mazzarri?
It better. I mean, I mean that's
yeah.
That's really it. I mean, and that's where I have genuine concerns. I got no doubt about them going forward. They've got so much talent, and Politano's having one of his best seasons.
Yeah.
Kvaratskhelia is eventually going to come out. Osimhen will find the scoring for him. Once he keeps getting his legs back under him after he's been out. And then you get it through Zielinski through the midfield. They've got different ways to score at you. It's really, really concerning. The performance on the other end, though, 17 goals conceded through 14 games is not title winning form.
No.
So that's where I would be concerned at this point.
I hear you.
So
I'm with you.
Yep. So that was the game of the weekend, and Inter made sure it wasn't much of a game. Richard, tell us about the rest of match week 14.
All right. Well, we start off with a doozy. Monza hosting Juventus. Interesting game, to say the least. Goal scoring started really early with under Rabiot getting a nice goal. So just before this, one of the plays of the week, penalty is called, and I forget the Juventus player that goes down. It was a penalty. Up steps Vlahovic. Sure thing. It's a goal, right? No, Di Gregorio makes a save. Rebound goes back to Vlahovic, and Di Gregorio makes another save. A fantastic, it's a play of the week nomination there to keep it out. But it goes out of bounds, right? Ensuing corner kick. Rabiot says, nah. He puts the ball back to the net with a nice header. 1-0 in the 12th minute there. And it looked like, hey, Juventus is going to keep going and whatever. They're going to get their nice 1-0 victory this game. Good opportunities going both ways. Monza certainly didn't back down for them. Monza's a good little team. There's a reason that they're top 10 in the league. But, both teams had their opportunities. The game going on and on. You're thinking, okay, this game's going to be over. And then in stoppage time, Carboni was a great goal. You're like, here we go. Monza found a way to equalize in stoppage time. Makes it 1-1. Game surely is going to end, right? No. Juventus, are trying to say that they're in the Scudetto hunt, and this is kind of a reason why. Late in the game, 4th, 5th minute of stoppage time, Ball bounces around and gets Sagatti. He takes like 2-3 swings at it. Finally gets a touch on the ball and it goes in the back of the net. They win 2-1 at the death. Wonderful resolve by Juventus to get the win against Monza. But full credit to Monza as well for putting up a fight against Juventus in this one. Moving on to Saturday, we had Milan hosting Frosinone. This was a Luka Jovic presentation, I guess, if you want to call it. Goal and assist in this one. He had a goal in the 43rd minute. A nice volley, difficult volley to put away. Krista Pulisic got a nice goal of the week candidate there in the 60th or 50th minute it was, excuse me. And then Luka Jovic with the assist in the 74th minute to Tomori. 3-0. Looks like they're going to walk away with this. Frosinone started coming back. They got a cheap goal, poor defending by the goalkeeper, defenders on that free kick. Brescianini, former Milan youth player, scores a goal. 3-1. Milan win. Nice 3 points done for them. Genoa hosting Empoli. Got to see the return of Retegui. But he would take a backseat to a goal of the week candidate, another bomb from distance. Melanovsky, I think it's his 17th from distance. He's a Steph Curry of our league, I think. Nice goal from 37th minute, 1-0. Cancellieri with a nice goal as well in the 67th minute to cancel that out. Moving on to Lazio hosting Cagliari. This game had a goal early. Lazio's been scoring early a lot lately. But Pedro scores in the 8th minute, makes it 1-0. Cagliari was hanging in there for a minute, but then they get a red card early in the game. I think it was like late, I think 27, 28 minute, 29th minute. Get a red card. First, initially called a yellow. Go to VAR, dangerous play, gets a red card. He's out. And so you saw at that point, Lazio should dominate this game, but they did possession-wise. They didn't really any goals, and Cagliari had their chances at the end. Provedel had to make a wonderful save in stoppage time to preserve the 3 points. So Lazio win there 1-0. Moving on to Sunday. Calendar's all mixed up. Lecce hosting Bologna. Bologna, as we expected, we're gonna have majority possession in this game. It's a good game back and forth. Obviously, Lecce play well at home. We had a shout out to the UK fan club, Lecce fan club there in London. We had the boys on here for a recent interview, but Bologna, they kept going at it. They finally got a breakthrough. Lico Giannis, goal of the week candidate, free kick in the 66th minute, makes it 1-0 there. Looks like Bologna are going to find a way just to hold on to the 1-0 win, but in stoppage time, a really silly penalty by Calafiori. I mean, I'm curious on your thoughts if you thought it was a penalty or not, but he takes out the Falcone, yes, the goalkeeper in the box, and that led to a penalty that Piccoli converts in the 10th minute of stoppage time. 1-1, Lecce get the draw on that one. Moving on, Fiorentina hosting Salernitana. It was all Fiorentina all the time. Beltran goal, penalty in the 6th minute, followed by Sotil, goal of the week candidate, wonderful curler in the 17th, and then Bonaventura in the 56th. 3-0 Fiorentina win there. Some opportunities for Salernitana, including the sitter. They missed a front goal, but it's all Fiorentina all the time. Arguably the game of the week outside of the Napoli-Inter game. Udinese hosting Hellas Verona. Goal scoring started in the 16th minute through Cabasele with the 16th minute, gets a nice goal, 1-0 there. Then a penalty for Hellas in the 37th. Milan Juric gets a converter there, 1-1 at that point going into halftime. Luka had a goal prior to that. I forgot about that. Luka, a guy who we've been talking about, a youngster, trying to fill the boots of Beto, who left this past season. Gets a nice goal to make a 2-0 there. Juric makes it 2-1. They go into halftime with that scoreline, and then a goal of the week candidate, Ngolange with a wonderful bicycle at the 61st minute, make it 2-2. And then another goal by Luka in the 72nd, 3-2. This game's going back and forth. And then finally in stoppage time, Henry gets a goal in the 97th minute, 3-3. Unreal. I did not see that coming out in this game. I thought maybe 1-1 best. 3-3, thrilled that scoreline. Moving on to Sassuolo hosting Roma. Sassuolo got the goal scoring started early. Henrique really kind of started the play and ended the play with a nice goal. Nice team goal there. Goal of the week candidate there. Then we would see a red card by Bolocca. Really a dangerous play on Dybala. No doubt about it. It was a red card for me. And then going to Dybala would get a penalty in the 76th minute, would convert that. This is the play that we talked about, the Christensen, going down in the box. Was it a penalty? Was it not? Dybala converts it 1-1, and then Christensen, the man who created the penalty, gets the game winner in the 82nd minute. 2-1 Roma win on the road. And then Monday, last game, which is a big shocker for everyone, I think. Torino hosting Atalanta. Atalanta should walk over them, right? No, not so fast. Duvan Zapata. It always seems like the old mistress comes back and haunts you. Zapata scores in the 22nd minute and in stoppage time. There's Sanabria scored a penalty in between that in the 56th. 3-0 Torino. This shock Atalanta. Where do you want to start with this weekend's action?
First of all, for exactly why Pioli should continue to be Milan's manager, the 3-1 win here against Frosinone, puts in a makeshift lineup. They go out there and they get the 3 points. They get the results, finding ways to win. Okay. Yeah. The Borussia Dortmund game, we talked about it. We said it was probably one of the most unfocused efforts you've probably seen from this team. And whenever you see an unfocused effort from a team, yeah, it should reflect on the manager. But to bounce back, to win in the fashion that they did against a Frosinone team that's been pretty pesky. Yeah. With Teo Hernandez at center back, and Teo Hernandez played really, really well, having to deputize in that role. I'll give them a pass for the goal that they conceded, because that's just makeshift. And where are you going to be to makeshift defense? Set pieces, there's enough change going on there that's how you're going to concede a goal. And that's just that's just the nature of it. You see it happen so many times.
Luka Jovic, man of the match for you, or who do you got?
Sure, absolutely. Great finish, and then getting the and here's the thing with Luka Jovic, and Milan Twitter are beating the guy to death.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's not getting. I saw it. Santangelo dog him for only having 7 touches at a certain point in the game. A couple of other guys were getting angry at him and said, "Okay, it's the role of the striker in a system like that, the single striker. It's not just his responsibilities with the ball; it's the responsibilities without it."
Correct.
Okay. How much room did Pulisic have on the left?
He had a good game.
Yeah, because of Jovic.
Yep.
It seems like Frosinone put their attention on Jovic defensively. That opened up Pulisic to have some chances. That opened up that left-hand side to operate a little bit. It gave Chukwueze a chance to come through. Okay, It opened up some stuff for the midfield. Okay, the role of the striker, and if he's moving around, and he's not a stiff, he wasn't standing in one spot. He wasn't there isn't bird shit on his shoulder. From being a statue and standing there, right?
Right.
Okay. Strikers have to move defenders. Okay. And that's what, and in parts he did that. His presence, his runs in the box, defenders are going with him. Now Pulisic has room to move. And then when Teo had his chances to venture forward, even from the center back position, he found them. So it's not just the touches, okay? And it's not just, it's not just scoring goals. It's what you're doing with your work rate and what you're doing without the ball to try to create some space and open things up for the teammates. And there were some very impressive things that he was doing in this game.
Was that naive from Frosinone to kind of focus on Jovic while you had Pulisic out there, while you had Chukwueze out there and some other guys? I mean, to me, like, if I'm looking at it, and I'm not a manager, clearly, I'm doing this, I'm not getting paid for it. But and if I'm looking at the Milan team and I see Luka Jovic out there, I'm like, well, he hasn't done anything. He has done ass this year, so I'm not going to worry about him. I'm going to guard Pulisic or Chukwueze, the playmakers, and if I stop them, I don't even have to worry about this guy. And they focusing on Luka Jovic. Granted, it worked out for Milan. They guard him. He does well at the hold up. That's an underrated part of any striker's game is, can you hold the ball up? And clearly he can. He created room, as you mentioned. And I think that was the downfall of Frosinone, because they focused on the wrong, attacker, and it kind of opened it up for all the playmakers to kind of do what they want to do.
It seems to be a trend in Serie A right now that defenses are taking away the striker. We already talked about it with Inter.
They got a damn good one though. Napoli do, so
yeah.
I don't blame them.
And I understand that. Okay. Clearly Atalanta didn't focus on Zapata.
Nope.
Monza had their attention on Vlahovic. where regardless, take the guy playing in the highest point and try to take him away. And maybe because wingers are taking chances from tougher scoring angles, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but you're seeing that happen pretty frequently, where tactically the defending is set up to just try to eliminate the striker.
Yeah.
You saw it. I mean, Inter put on a clinic with it on Osimhen on Sunday, but there's a trend there. I don't know if it was foolish of Frosinone, or if they were if they just so happened to just compact the middle area, and that they thought that those were going to be the areas where Milan were going to produce the most dangerous chances, and Jovic happened to be in those positions.
Right.
I don't dare try to get into Di Francesco's head.
Yeah.
Although I'll say this, he's having a redemption this season managing this team.
I agree
at the moment. But yeah, it seemed like that. It's like, hey, we're just going to take the middle of the pitch away. We're going to take Jovic away. We're going to take our chances. But it made Pulisic look more and more dangerous. Chikwueze, he was average. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I saw.
Yep. Okay. What other games? Obviously that Udinese Hellas game, which unexpected, because I think both teams, the lack of quality. Udinese has had some quality this season. They just had bad results.
Mm-hmm.
But getting the goals that they had, Samardzic and company, doing really well offensively, but defensively couldn't do anything. Hellas kept coming back every time. Obviously, Ngonj pulled a worldly out of his pocket there, but yeah, 3-3. I did not see that coming at all. I mean, I thought the way these two teams have played this year, it's going to be a low-scoring game, a very boring game. I'm glad that I got to watch this game because it was certainly entertaining from a neutral standpoint. I don't know if Anthony or someone else in the chat said that, but it absolutely was. That's what you want to see as a game where chances both ways, lots of goals. Even though there's not lots of goals, as long as there's a lot of chances, that's what you want to see. And I think this game had it all. It was a surprisingly good game to watch this weekend. Out of all the games we saw.
The best thing to happen to Udinese was Isaac's success getting hurt 7 minutes in.
Yeah.
Because look at it start this game.
Yeah.
So Cyril Ngonj needs to find a better team.
He does. We
were on him before anybody else.
Yeah.
Just like his play, scored a wonder goal here at the weekend that if it wasn't for Cialanoglu, we'd be talking about that as goal of the week. Looking at Udinese and how they went about it, okay, obviously you have Luka. Samardzic is still there pulling strings. Who knows how much longer that's going to last and when he starts getting linked.
Tovan's starting to get his legs under him too. I think Tovan and Samardzic to be a really good team. I mean, Tovan is such a underrated player because he used to, back in his younger days, he used to score lots of goals in the Ligue 1. And he has that capability. He's seen, he got a couple shots, hit a post or two in this game. He's a good playmaker as well. And so I think that's a really nice compliment in the attack they have. And then Luka, who's so big and he's so mobile, he can do so many things. They could have a nice scoring run, this team. Just got to figure it out defensively.
Agreed. The goal, the goals are there, but there's also goals to concede with the way Udinese are set up. So, let's see here. Roma's top four.
No, I know.
Stop the count.
You kept saying it.
So everybody laughed at me.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was crazy. It was like, this is why you don't judge a team after their first two games.
You and Vincent had them top four, and that's about it.
Yeah.
No, a lot of Romanisti had it, but yeah.
I'm not Romanisti, and I had him top four. I had him fourth.
Yeah.
So here we are. Although I had Napoli in the top four and Juve out of the top four, so it just flipped that. Otherwise, I have all the teams. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, Roma showed a lot of great resolve in that game because Sassuolo is a Jekyll and Hyde team, but when they get a lead, they are dangerous. They're hard to play against because they're gonna keep going for more goals. And Roma kept at it, and they found a way. And Christensen kind of sparked the comeback, and obviously Dybala was instrumental in the game. Lukaku missed a sitter where he should have scored a goal, like one-on-one with the goalkeeper. You got to put that away, man. Like, but luckily Dybala showed up and Christensen showed up, and Christensen, we've seen glimpses of him. Hopefully he can kind of take this momentum and run with it, because we see glimpses where he's like, man, this guy could do something. It could be a nice compliment for the attackers they have at Roma, and then he kind of disappears for a little bit. And so hopefully Mourinho trusts him more. I think a game like this would certainly help. Maybe be more of a super sub, at least for the time being. But if he keeps doing these kind of performances, Mourinho's going to start trusting him more and more, and we're going to see a lot more of this kid. And he has that playmaking ability where he kind of obviously sets the world on fire and really sparks the team when they're if everyone's going to focus on Dybala, he's going to leave a lot of room for Christensen to do what he can and find Lukaku. So we'll see what Roma do, but it's good resolve by them coming back in this game and not only equalizing but getting the win. So if you want to be top four, you're going to have these kind of games against teams that are the Jekyll and Hydes like the Sassuolo.
There's just a good mix of guys here on this Roma team. I mean, you get Spinazzola starting, and he's starting to get his form back a little bit too. Bove keeps looking better and better every time he gets a chance to play in the midfield for them too. I mean, so it goes beyond some of the guys, but they can interchange their attack. Azmoun, El Shaarawy got some playing time. Lorenzo Pellegrini starting to get his legs back under him too. There's depth in this Roma team. They're a deeper team than they were even last year, which is going to serve them well, which is a big part of why I thought top four was perfectly reasonable, and that they would overcome the bad start, and here we are. So I don't think they'll do any better than that. I think that there's still a mentality with them, despite Mourinho being the manager, that it's Roma, it's a fragility, and they need to show us otherwise, regardless of who's managing and regardless of how many players you assemble.
I think Azmoun as well has got to step up. He had a lot of good opportunities in this game. He got involved in nice open spaces, made himself available, but his finishing's got to be better. I mean, he had some great chances where he could at least put it on target and make the goalkeeper try to save, and he would miss it wide. But he's getting into the spaces, and that's part of being a good attacker, is finding the open spaces and get there, and eventually, like it happened for Jovic this weekend, eventually it'll go in for you, and hopefully you can kind of snowball that and get a momentum going. But I'm still the jury's still out with him, because I think he has the IQ to be a good player. It just, does he have the skill set to get over that hump, and that's to be determined.
Agreed. Have the wheels fallen off of Atalanta here with Gasperini? Is it finally time to say, hey, it's hit its ceiling? It's not a team we're going to take seriously as a top four team anymore. Yeah. The loss at home to Napoli, and then this result here against Torino. Are we done taking Atalanta seriously? And now that after I say that, Milan have to play at Atalanta this weekend,
and Atalanta go win 5-0. Watch.
Yeah, exactly. And Gasperini's dancing again. So, what do we make of Atalanta? Because it is weird right now. They have 1 point out of their last 4 games. That point came at Udinese 1-1. It has been a difficult schedule, but it clearly shows that they're not ready to run with the big boys anymore. They're not at that level. But 2-1 loss at home to Inter, 2-1 loss at home to Napoli, and then getting drubbed 3-0 at Torino. Those are 3 top half teams here. And are we back to them being that team that's kind of going to just be 8th to 11th, or do you still hold out hope that this gets turned around?
I mean, I still think they're a Europa League or Conference League type team. They should be, challenging for the top 4, but maybe Gasperini has run his course. I think, back in 2019 to 2021 is when we saw them really at their peak. It seems like, so Atalanta are like that hipster team that we all root for because they play so well. It's nice to see, and they're a small team, right? And I think it eventually got to, and this was me seeing from the long distance from far away, and not being a fan at all. It seems like all that celebrity of Atalanta doing so well got to Gasperini's head, and not only is that, hey, look, we can do well. I'm just going to tinker all the time now, and it kind of just throws off the whole team, and they can't perform consistently. Like say, 1 week they have an impressive win, and then they go and lose to Torino 3-0. And it's like, what is this team? They're very Jekyll and Hyde, like Sassuolo. Not to the great extent that Sassuolo is, but I think Gasperini, I don't see him getting canned during the season, but I can see them moving on. The question for me is, who would they bring in? It'd have to be someone that would want to go to a smaller size club, right? It's not the the Juventus or the Inters of the world, but this job isn't. But who's going to go there? Maybe a manager's on the up and up, and that maybe Dionisi or something like that could go there and take a next step. But I think his course at Atalanta has run, and it's time to move on from him at the end of the season. It's just like he's taken way too much for me. Yeah, he has Cope minors playing consistently, but so much rotation. You never know who's going to start in the game. Obviously, Zapata left because he wasn't getting consistent time. Muriel, who's a fantastic talent, his goal-to-minute ratio is one of the best in the world. He comes on every, only for super sub moments for like last 20 minutes of the game. And it's like, you don't understand anything that he does. And I don't know. I'm curious what Atalanta feel like with Gasperini, because they know him a little bit better than I do. But just, from what I see, it's just like, I don't know, man. The message is not getting through their heads anymore. And it's just, you gotta move on. They reach the ceiling.
They have played 6 of the current top half, so far this season in Serie A. They have not played Bologna. They've not played Roma. They'll play Milan this weekend. 6 games. 1 point out of a possible 18. Yeah. A goalless draw with Juventus. They have lost all the other games. They lost to Inter. They lost to Napoli. They lost to Lazio, Fiorentina, and now Torino.
Wow.
So I just don't think they have the players that can cope with the mentality of playing that next level of competition. You see them get in tussles with Sporting Lisbon even. So, so I think it's worrying. I don't think this Atalanta team is good. I think they've been found out in certain ways, and I'll call it now. Milan go and beat Atalanta this weekend.
Okay.
So 2-1. It's going to be it'll be a tense game for reasons because of Milan's some of their lack of available players. But I think they're going to find a way to get a win.
Okay. Yeah. I'm scared of that game. I say a draw, but it's very possible. That game.
The window of Papu Gomez and Ilicic laid staunch a foundation for Percassi and Gasperini to build future teams. Yeah, there's definitely truth to that.
100%.
There's definitely truth to that. Looking at the rest of this, par for the course. Fiorentina did what they were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Juve getting that win at Monza, finding a way to win there in the end. And in order to keep pace with Inter, I think that, you build title winning campaigns on those kind of results.
Absolutely.
So don't underestimate what that might mean in the grand scheme of things if Juve are able to catch Inter at some point. Bologna a little hard done by toward the end there. That's the penalty call I'm back and forth on. Did you think that was a penalty for the Piccoli equalizer?
So that, and again, there's so many penalties this weekend. I thought the defender should never, Calafiori, I don't think he should have never had his hands on Falcone. Did Falcone make a meal of it? Yeah. But I certainly think it was a penalty because he was draped all over him. And I also think the legs got caught up as well. So you have those two combinations. It's going to be a penalty almost every time. But Calafiori, in my opinion, had no opinion, draped all over him like he should. He's acting like he was like the top striker on the team, and he's not. And Piccoli's going to convert that. He's he's a good player. So, what are your thoughts on that penalty?
I think it was a penalty, and I think it was a foolish play. But so I don't know if there was the controversy there that there might be with the Roma penalty. And like I said, I still think the Osimhen Acerbi was just I think it was a coming together. I've watched it a dozen times. Again, Lisi, let us know. We're waiting to hear what you have to say about it. So, And going through the rest of it, Genoa Empoli probably could have been played on a public parking lot and no one would have noticed, but except for the Malinowski goal, that was pretty sweet. So
It certainly was.
So, all right. Well, I think we exhausted match week 14. Ready to get into some goals of the week?
Yeah, let's do it. Also,
this week I've got 7, and I got to get it down to 5.
Yeah, I have I have 10, but I have a top 5. I definitely have a top 5. There's a lot of honorable mentions, but I'm not going to mention. So number 5 for me, I am going to go with Sotil. I thought his curler of a shot was really, really nice. Number 4, Nicolo Barella. His run slaloming through the defense is really more poor defense than his moves, but he had some nice moves in the box as well. Nice finish there. I'm going number 3. I'm going to go Malinowski. I thought I love the long range goal, and he can do it as good as anybody else, man. It was a nice one from distance. Number 2, it's going to be a shocker here. I think I love long distance goals, but Calhanoglu coming at number 2 for me. I have that Ngonj goal. I love the flare goals. The only thing I like better than long distance goals is those flare type goals, and Ngonj's bicycle. We've seen many bicycles.
Okay.
Leao had one this year too, but this one has hit really well. It was a really well struck bicycle, so that's why he slightly edges over Calhanoglu. Calhanoglu was a fantastic shot. It was one of the best shots of this year. So no disrespect to him.
I only edged Calhanoglu over Ngonja because of not only was it an outstanding goal, but the magnitude of it.
Fair enough.
And the height of the game, the heightened awareness of the game.
It opened the game.
I'm with you on the rest. In that order, I think you have Malinowski, Barella, and then Sotil.
Yep.
The honorable mentions: Lico Giannis' free kick was wonderful for Bologna.
Yes.
And then I do want to recognize Pulisic's goal against Frosinone. The first touch out of the air on Maignan punt was wonderful, and then to be able to play off the defenders and to be able to chip it past the goalkeeper to finish there, I think it's an honorable mention for me too. But I'm with you on the top 5. I have 1 and 2 reversed from where you've got them. So.
And the only other honorable mentions that you didn't mention that are mine, I think Grigorio's double penalty kick save on Vlahovic was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And Provedel stopping Pavoletti in stoppage time to preserve the win for Lazio. That was also nice. So shout out to both of them. Agreed.
We move on. Paolo Maldini ended his silence.
He did. So I'm going to read the quote that he said, and then we can get a reaction from you about it. So Maldini was interviewed by Repubblica, and he says, the translation is, "Why did I remain silent for 6 months? Time allows you to have serenity. There are people who pass through without real respect for the identity and history of Milan. There are others linked to their ideals. It would be better to keep them close. Was I expecting my departure? If the club was sold for 1.2 billion and the new owners wanted to change, they have that right. But people, roles must be respected. I had to find an agreement for my rights. My love for Milan remains unconditional. The information is not directed towards the truth. Anyone who says otherwise knows that they are lying to themselves. Luckily, it seems to me that the public have not been influenced by this. Cardinale says that I'm an individualist. He's confused with the desire to be responsible for the decisions required for the role. Daily confrontation is a blessing. A former top-level footballer is used to being judged every 3 days. As a director, I grew in the first 6 months. I felt useless. Leonardo told me, you're just learning. It's not easy to communicate with an American fund or a South African CEO. Nothing can be further from the truth that Massara and I did not share objectives and strategies. Never had nor wanted signing power, not even for loans. Each purchase was endorsed by the CEO and its owners. When we chose the players, sometimes the budget disappeared. Interference in sporting choices that shift financial balance is sometimes normal. Cardinale said that we were to trust each other. I did that, but the things ended up as we well know. I believe the decision to fire has been made months earlier, and there were those who knew about it. The contract, 2 years with an option to renew, was signed by me when we won the Scudetto. Was it Cardinale's request? What was Cardinale's request? To win the Champions League. I explained that a 3-year plan was needed. From October to February, I prepared with Massara and a consultant friend of mine. 35 pages of sustainable strategy and the need to leap in quality sent sent to CEO sent to the CEO for Lani? The answer: nothing. Out of 35 signings, we are challenged by De Ketelare, who was 21 years old. If you choose young players of that age, the failure rate is high. They must be waited for, helped, pampered, taken aback. On the other hand, after 3 months of work, Boban and Mazzarri and I were called to London by the owners and CEOs and practically delegitimized. They didn't like Leao, Benacer, Teo, but starting a path was needed. In 2018-2019, not a young and underperformed team with Champions League for 6 years, squad worth around 200 million, salary total of 150 million in 4 years of restructuring with young players, net market spending of transfer market 120 million, 30 million per season and 15 million per window. And then after 3 years, 100 million, now without being able to renew Kessie and Çalhanoğlu. He goes on and on. I mean, the main thing, it's like he's talking truths, that stuff that I think we all knew. Mm-hmm. And he's also talking about Cardinale and about his difficulties. And obviously, to me, it seems like there was a struggle between, which is obvious, Cardinale and Maldini, and his Cardinale's philosophy with Maldini. From what you heard, there's a lot more of it. You can go ahead and read it online. But thoughts on what Maldini had to say? Was it something, or was it really a lot of nothing?
It's a lot. It's a lot of nothing. I think Maldini just kind of wanted to share his story and his side of the events and his perception of everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's just where it's at to me. You're always going to have. There's always at least two sides of a story.
Yep.
Okay. You're going to have what ownership is going to say. You're going to have what the director is going to say. Okay, and it's going to be different whenever it comes to a situation like this. I thought that, and we talked about this way back when Maldini was sacked. We said, okay, take Paolo Maldini, the name, off of the performance as director. Mm-hmm. Are we as outraged? And we poked holes in the performance where we could say, no, we're not really outraged. Yeah. You know, because for every signing he did well, there was one or two signings that made you scratch your head.
Yeah.
You know, here right now, you look at the Cardinale group signings. Pulisic has been a slam dunk success. Okay. Tiani Reinders has been a success. Mm-hmm. He has some defensive liabilities, but he has been an overall success. Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been
almost a slam dunk, almost.
Well, but the injuries have shown up, you know, so that's what's keeping it from being that. Who else did they send?
Moose has been good.
Moose has been good. He had that shocker against Lecce.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he's been okay.
He was out of position, to be frank.
Yep. Chukwueze is your classic need time to acclimate player, and
that's how Leao was.
Yep, scored a goal against Borussia Dortmund. Over these last couple of games where he's gotten to have a little bit more playing time, you're starting to see some signs of life. So who else came in? Did Jovic come in? Jovic came in.
Jovic came in, yeah.
Kind of an incomplete. I think Okafor is kind of an incomplete as well.
Yeah.
Those would be the two that I would probably say need more time to understand. And then Pellegrino also probably incomplete. I'm wondering if I'm leaving anybody out. In the last transfer window, Redbird held money back until the very last weeks and was little. Overall, good or bad. Promise you less players. Answers for Lonnie's calls. So I'm trying to understand what you're asking here.
I think it's part of the quote that Maldini said. The only thing I would say was, you know, if Cardinale did say, "Hey, I want a Champions League title," you know, the actions of the signing of the players, it seems like, and I think maybe Dominic said it earlier, is like they're trying to win a Champions League playing Moneyball. And it doesn't work like that in football. Can you build a successful team? Yes. Obviously, what Maldini is, you know, we've poked holes in his signings and along the way, but he's certainly brought the team up to a new level. The team is much better now than before him. But you know, if Cardinale's goal was Champions League, I think that's good. That's good to have, because Milan cherishes more the Champions League than they do the Scudetto. And so, but the actions haven't shown that yet. Maybe maybe with their number of games, they thought that was going to work out. Maybe it might still happen, but as of right now, it doesn't. And it's also, I think, and we mentioned this last podcast. I think if Maldini had stayed, Pioli's time probably would have been would be a lot shorter than it would be with under Cardinale, because I think ultimately for Cardinale it's a money game, and it's all about making consistent money product, an Arsenal top four, if you will. That's the main goal: be in Champions League, get that money, and stay in the top four hunt, and be competitive in the Scudetto. So I don't know. Well, to be determined. I agree with you. A lot of nothing in this Maldini comment. It's just that him sharing his side of the story that we kind of all knew already. And I think had it not been the Maldini name, we probably wouldn't have been as open our eyes to what the actual truth was. If it was a Joe Blow who got fired, we would have been like, oh yeah, Jerry Cardinale was right. This guy's wrong. But we gave credit to Maldini because we know who he is for the last 30, 40 years he's been with the club. So we had an understanding of who he is, and so we gave him the benefit of doubt, and that's all he was saying. This is my side of the story.
Yep. So just I kind of in a way you're kind of saying move on, nothing to see here. So got to hear his story. But we appreciate it. It's not going to change. Really not going to change a whole lot of what's happened here. So
no.
But let's all just move on as fans and understand we've heard both sides, and I think it's up to everybody else to judge. I think it remains that the sensitivity to this is the fact that Maldini is a Milan icon.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's, I think, the outrage is over that more than his performance actually as a director.
Yeah, how he was canned, I think, did more for me than not because he was fired. It was just out of the blue, and I get why it was done, but man.
Yep, agreed. All right, so we go from there to Euro 2024. The final draw took place. We talked about this. We previewed this draw. We said, you know what, Italy's just going to end up in a tough group here because they were put in pot 4. They're in Group B. And oh, baby, Spain, Croatia, and Albania. Now, wasn't this the group in 2012? Wasn't this their group in 2012?
I feel like it. If it wasn't it's pretty damn close.
I'm going to look at this. I know Spain and Croatia were in it.
Yeah, I don't know if Albania was or not. I'm trying to remember now.
I'm going to look at it right now.
All right, because I'm curious. But it's a difficult group. We knew no matter what with the Euros, it's going to be a difficult draw. Euros is arguably the toughest tournament in the world. From top to bottom with all the teams that are included.
No, it was Ireland. Ireland was the 4th team, but Italy were in with Spain and Croatia.
Yeah, but would you not agree with me that the Euros are the most difficult tournament in the world
for international football? Yes, extremely difficult.
What on domestic level is better?
I think you can argue the Champions League, but you know what? You're talking about just if you're talking about overall, yeah. I think the Euros are more difficult to win than the World Cup.
Yeah, I agree.
But I still think the Champions League has a standard. It's ask Pep Guardiola how hard it is to win the Champions League. How many years he's won it twice at Barcelona, but how many years has he tried to win it at Manchester City? So,
yeah. Man City, Bayern Munich, yeah,
Yep, but it's a very difficult tournament. I mean, it is one as international tournaments go. It's the toughest tournament. It's tougher than the World Cup. It's tougher than Copa America. So you get Spain, you get Croatia, and you get Italy, and you get Albania. Okay, they open with Albania, so they get that right off the bat, and it's an Albania team that is going to be tougher than everybody's going to give them credit for. First of all, Albania's players are going to have familiarity with Italy. Some of them play in Serie A.
Elmas
is North Macedonian.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Nedim Barami.
Yep, Barami.
Is chief among them. So you have to take him into consideration as a player to be on the lookout for. I believe it was the striker who's having a pretty good season, and the name escapes me.
Aslani.
Aslani's a midfielder, but
Apex, yeah, mentioned that.
So Oh, guys, Broha, Armando Broha, he's back. So there's a collection that is going to make it interesting. Eventually, they should. Italy has to win this game, get off to a good start. They don't win this game, forget about trying to qualify. Now, 4 third-place teams qualify to the round of 16, so there is an element that they could go through. But if they lose this Albania game, I just don't see how they can qualify. They need these 3 points.
Absolutely.
Get these 3 points, and then get a point off of Spain and Croatia. And you're assuring yourself of qualification into the round of 16. The diehard Azzurri fans are going to tell you, we're Italy, we should win every game we play. I think this is a Croatia side that is on the back end.
After golden years, yeah.
If you want to make a case for their chances against them, that's something that you can look to. It hasn't been the greatest qualifying campaign for them. They did get to it was actually Spain and Croatia in the Nations League final last year, and Spain won. So there's that. And then Spain, I mean, there's an abundance of talent. They do play a little differently than the Del Bosque teams that had Xavi and Iniesta.
Yep.
But they've got the next wave of guys that are coming through. Pedri and Gavi through the midfield. They've got an abundance of talent up front. Give me the name of this guy that's playing on the right for Barcelona now. Younger guy, and he's talented.
Oh, Ansu Fati plays for them, though, right?
No, he's with Brighton now.
No, but I mean, with Spain.
Oh, Ansu Fati's with Spain, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were referring to...
No. Not Barcelona.
Okay. I'm just taking a look at a couple of other things here. But what else is... Yamal, thank you. Thank you. Gavi's out of the Euros because of his ACL injury. Good catch. But there's still going to be an abundance of talent, of technical talent. They're going to have possession of the ball 70 to 75%. Dani Olmo's another player. So, the ability is there. And there's another name in there. There's Ferran Torres.
Yeah.
Produces really well. And they've got Alvaro Morata as a striker.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, you can find his form. So there's some ability there. If they don't beat Albania, it's going to be very, very hard for them to get out of this group, even to finish third and be one of the better third place finishers. I size it up that I still maintain that reaching the last 8 should be the goal for this competition. It's just going to be, this group is going to be difficult. If they can survive this group, we'll see what happens in that round of 16, because when you get to knockout football, anything happens.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the draw? This is going to be tough. This is going to be really, really tough.
It is. It's going to be a difficult draw. I mean, is second place attainable in this group? It is, but the one thing that's a saving grace for me is that if this tournament was to begin next week, I have reservations about making third place, let alone qualifying. But it's Spalletti. And it's 6 months from now. He's going to be able to mold his team into how he wants it to perform. He's going to find his right pieces, at least from the, how he thinks the team is going to look. Obviously, when the tournament starts, things change. We see guys get hot, guys cool off, all that kind of stuff. How many times in the past in tournaments we will go in there thinking, Di Natale or Totti are going to run the show, and it's somebody else who comes to the front. So I fully expect Spalletti to have his team ready to go, and because of that, I give them a good chance to get out of this group. That game against obviously Croatia, they are on the back end of their what do you call it, their golden era, and Albania is going to be tough as well. But I think both of them can be had with a good setup. Strong midfield, finally a goal-scoring attackers, but particularly the striker position, which we've lacked for many years, and then obviously a solid defense. I think Spalletti can right the ship and get us prepared. Top 8 should be, or finishing in the round of 8 should be the goal. I agree with that. Once you get to knockouts, as you mentioned, anything can happen. We've seen Greece, what they won 2004, a team that had nobody has true Cinderella, and they came in they will beat Portugal in the final there. So anything is possible in the knockouts. Get to the knockouts. That's the main goal. Defense wins championship. If they can find a way to make this defense back to something strong, and with the attacking talent that they have, this team has a chance. But again, I trust Spalletti, and I'm glad the tournament starts in 6 months, not 6 weeks.
I'll run down real quick. Come back to Albania here real quick. I'll run down the players that are currently in Serie A or have Serie A, or at least playing in Italy, I should say.
Okay.
Etri Perisha, goalkeeper for Empoli. Strakosha, who used to play for Lazio. You even have in that goalkeeper camp Elhan Castrati, who's playing for Cittadella over in Serie B. Go a little bit further up. Look at the defenders. Ardian Ismaili, Berachim City of Atalanta. We've heard of him. Elsaid Husay and Marash Kambula of Roma. You get into the midfield. Barami, we talked about. Aslani from Inter. You've got Ramadani of Lecce. So those guys are all in the camp. And then forwards, I believe Chuni from Frosinone is in this team.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mirto Uzzoni. He has 5 goals for Getafe in La Liga. So
decent team.
It's a decent side. It's not somebody that you can just look at and automatically assume easy win.
No.
Okay. So when you look at the guys that have been performing, or Lamine Yamal, we talked about, Ferran Torres, Asensio, Morata, Hosselu, who's having a good season for Real Madrid. Rodrigo from
Real.
Not Brazil. No, not Brazil's Rodrigo. It's a different Rodrigo. Oyarzabal from Real Sociedad. Ansu Fati. Bryce Mendez having a nice season. I believe he's not listed in here. Maybe he's not. Oh no, he's not. I don't think he's Spain. Forgive me. Rodri, forgot about him. Nico Williams over at Athletic Bilbao. I mean, Fabian Ruiz, Jeremy Pino, Alejandro Baena of Villarreal. Rodrigo Riquelme. Sanchez from Athletic Bilbao. He's another one having a good season over there in La Liga. Just an embarrassment of riches in that team. And then you go and you look at Croatia. We know about Luka Modric. Okay, we know about Ivan Perisic, Andrej Kramaric, Mario Pasalic, Nikola Vlasic, Ante Budimir is doing decent. You go into that midfield, Kovacic from Man City, Perisic, Brozovic, who's playing in Saudi Arabia, but Italy's going to be very familiar with him. Brecalo with Fiorentina, Ivanušec, who's now with Feyenoord, Baturina, who is still at Dinamo Zagreb. Watch for Baturina. I think he's not going to crack this Croatia lineup with all the veteran talent, but he's a young player that is going to find work with a better club and in a bigger league. And then you go to the defense. Pongracic, Lecce player. Borna Barisic from Rangers. Borna Sosa from Ajax. Varidol from City. Erlich from Sassuolo. Sutalo, who has some experience in Serie A. So a lot of Serie A links here. It's a star-studded group. It is a star-studded group, and it's going to present some challenges.
Well, we already talked about where we think the Azzurri are going to fall. Who do you just seeing the draw and knowing the teams that are involved, who do you feel are the early favorites in this tournament? Spain's got to be up there, right?
Spain's up there. Let me just pull up
England has to be up there.
I think England got a favorable group. There's no denying that.
The Dutchies, I would not be shocked by the Dutchies, but obviously France are going to be one of the top favorites.
Let's see here. I look at Group A. Germany being the hosts are going to have an advantage.
Right one.
Certainly in a winnable group there. I think France, it's pretty straightforward for them. This is a Netherlands that's managed by Ronald Koeman, and I'm just not sold. Austria is an interesting proposition in that group with Ranić. He's got them playing better.
Yeah.
And you've got to look out for Portugal too. I would probably tip France as the favorite. I think first of all they're going to have the best player in this tournament, in Kylian Mbappe, and then they've just got loads of depth behind him.
Oh my gosh!
They're deeper than Spain, and they named all those names on Spain.
I know.
So
from goalkeeper all the way forward, they have depth in every. I mean, depth and talent and superstar power, like every level. It seems like it's ridiculous.
I think France could build at least 2 national team squads that could play in this competition and go deep.
Yeah.
So that's how good they are. So
Ronaldo's last dance to Portugal. Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me as much.
Not a favorite, but you never know with them.
Right. You never do know. So maybe we just got to wait and see who these playoff winners are and how they help shape all this up. But it's going to be a great tournament. The Euros are always fun.
Yeah.
So, but right now I think you've got to back France to win this thing. Just on talent, what they're going to be able to bring to the table.
Yep. 100%.
All right. So Locatelli, Barella, and Fratesi midfield can go toe-to-toe with Spain.
Maybe they're B team. I love Barella, but that's about it from that group.
Spain's under 21s, probably.
Yeah. I like those 3 players, but I think that's what you have to have their best midfield to compete with Spain. No disrespect to the Azzurri, but that's a good team there.
Just somebody tell Spalletti not to play Cristante in that game. The disaster waiting to happen.
Oh, man.
All right, well, let's wrap this up with the world's most popular hashtag game. It is time for Who Won Calcio Twitter.
Yes, kick things off. So Dennis Darko started off with this tweet that says 1,000% Italian cuisine is below average. However, they have great marketing. So our friend Adriano Del Monte says, can Serie A borrow this marketing team for a few years, please? Italian food is only good because of the great marketing. Get the fuck out of here. What is Dennis Darko smoking? Can I have?
Oh, and that's and that was from this senior Izzle who said we need to have an uncomfortable conversation about Italian food.
Yeah.
And it just snowballed, and a lot of people had their shots. A lot of people took their shots at her show because she was coming from London, and they were taking pictures of beans on toast. So. She should take the L on that one, but apparently enough people followed it.
Oh, man.
WhoScored.com, Nicola Zaniolo's player characteristics, strengths. Player has no significant strengths.
Weaknesses.
Holding onto the ball, passing, aerial duels, finishing, crossing, defensive contribution, and discipline.
What about betting?
I actually don't have a hard time with any of that.
It's just so funny. It's like player has no significant strengths. Oh my God.
He can run really fast. That's about it.
He's got pace. Nice tattoos.
Well, I don't know if that's his strength. It doesn't do anything for me.
Oh, man, this is a funny tweet. I mean, I got a lot of hate for it, for that tweet, but I just think it's funny. Whether I believe him or not, it's just so a funny tweet to me.
Yeah.
Speaking of funny tweets, Big Show, of course, gets involved. He says, Arsenal wanted Inter in the round of 16, but they're struggling against a team called Luton Town. 4-3 today. Sorry, Bob Lex, if you're watching or listening, but yeah.
I think it was a 97th minute winner by Declan Rice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so Troll Football saying how to score against Onana, just shoot. Our friend Matteo Benetti saying Stefano Pioli's fault. Matteo Benetti is on a Stefano Pioli's fault retweet campaign.
Yes, he is. Now. It's amazing.
And it's funny, and it's actually funny every time he does it. It hasn't been not funny yet.
Yeah. Anthony makes a good point, too. Zaniolo's strength is betting.
Fair point.
But yeah, Bonetti's been on a tear. Bonetti's been on a tear saying everything's Pioli's fault. It's great.
Yep. Benetti. Yeah. Yeah.
He's outdone you. He's outdone you.
All I've sat there, what did I do after the Borussia Dortmund? It's not so it's Stefano Pioli's fault that Giroud missed that penalty and Calabria. Yeah, I think I have a tweet back there. So anyway.
Moving on. So the original tweet was Juventus saying the club bids farewell to dear Juventus friend and true Italian football fan Henry Kissinger. And the tweet from AFC Beef says, this is like when Bin Laden was an Arsenal fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it. Who's your winner in this one? Not many choices, but there's some good ones.
Yeah, there was. I think we're gonna go with Benetti.
Yeah, I've been enjoying his rants on everything's Pioli's fault. So as a result, a cumulative result, he wins.
Yeah, it's a body of work performance.
Yeah. Lifetime achievement. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's our Who Won Calcio Twitter for this week. Thank you for everyone who's nominated or tagged people in those. Just use the hashtag Who Won Calcio Twitter, so we can vote on them. Nothing offensive or mean spirited, or we will not read those. While you do that, I'm gonna do a shout out again. One to Calcio with Reno. Reno was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still on. Had him on last week on the show. Julian, Calcio with Julian as well. Shout out to both of them. Follow both of them. Great guys there talking about their respective teams, and then Julian obviously talks a lot of different Calcio. Julian, Reno does as well. Shout out to the UK fan club, Lecce UK fan club. Both. Oh my gosh, the boys' names are escaping me now. But we did an interview with them. It's on our YouTube page, so go check that out. We'll send it out as a podcast as well. Just so you can,
Lecce fans UK.
No.
Will and Zach.
Will and Zach, thank you. Yeah, you were struggling the other day with it. Now I'm struggling with it, man. It's just old age catching up with us.
And I mean, you're just shitting on them ever since the interview. I don't know what they ever did to you. You leave out Udan in the goal of the week last week, and now you don't remember their names.
I'm just slipping, man. I just got to retire or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. But shout out to them. Right. Follow them on Instagram. Yep. Yeah. So that's all my shout outs for this week.
Wonderful. I want to give a shout out to the chat. You guys are awesome.
Oh yeah.
Thank you all again, as always, for chiming in, giving your takes, and giving us some insightful things to come in and talk about. It's not like you guys are just coming in here and spitting opinions. You're giving some very interesting things to talk about. So we appreciate that. Keep doing what you do. Serie A Sit Down. We are putting a bow on this edition of Serie A Sit Down at this point. We are on. We have our own channel on Apple Podcasts, on SoundCloud. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever there is podcasts. There's Serie A Sit Down. Here on the YouTube channel, if you're watching this for the first time and enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Drop a like. We certainly appreciate that. And most importantly, hit that notification bell so you know when we go on live. If you want to catch us live on the YouTube channel, if you're listening to us on one of the podcast spaces, and you want to catch us live and jump into the chat like all of these wonderful people do, we are generally on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, here on the YouTube channel. We will give you a notice if we're going to go on a different day during a particular week, if schedules prohibit us from being on at that time. But that is kind of our sweet spot where you can catch us. So we certainly hope to have you joining us at some point and checking in with us. So please do that. The more the merrier. So at Serie A Sit Down on Twitter, Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook. Those are the socials. Richard is at R_KHARMAN. I'm at FTC_21. Any other promotionals that we got?
No, you probably saw a bunch of tweets of us hooking up with Fanatics to give out some discounts on some great merchandise. Look for more of that as the holidays roll around, with a lot of good Calcio, good discounts as well. So shout out to Fanatics for that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, over at Fanatics. Most definitely. So we will see you all next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we will have a little bit of understanding of what's going on with Champions League by that time too.
And Serie A, a little bit.
And Serie A. Yeah, we have some big games. We have Napoli, Juventus. We've got Atalanta, Milan. What else do we have next week?
I think Fiorentina, Roma. There's a lot of good games next weekend,
Yes,
actually.
It's going to be a big week. So we're looking forward to reconvening with you all and recapping all of it. So until then, for Richard, I'm Frank. This has been Serie A Sit Down, a podcast of World Football Index. And as always, be sure to tell your paisans about us. Ciao.
Sul fondo mette in mezzo